Pamela, I'm so excited to have you here. You are a $25 million a year loan officer who does about 70 units every year on average. But what's really cool is that you get a lot of your business from Board of Realtors and doing CE, continuing education classes for realtors. And after 26 years in the business, this was a shift that you made 15 years ago to focus on the education. And what's really cool is that you've been in the finance industry for 35 years. So you've seen it all. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thanks for inviting me on this podcast. I'm very excited to be here. I actually was in the car business for almost 10 years doing finance, and I learned all about credit and learned all about, those typical underwriting issues with cars, but I didn't feel I was getting a lot out of it. And so when I bought my first house, the loan officer that I had, I hate to be negative, but he just wasn't that great. So I thought to myself, maybe I can help people achieve their dreams in buying a home and save money by switching over to homes. And I always loved real estate because of my father. He would drive us by houses when I was a little girl. And every Sunday we would just drive through residents looking at homes and bigger homes and dream about having a bigger home. And so I switched to mortgages, and I absolutely love finance. And so I made the switch to teaching to realtors because I felt like there wasn't enough education out there. There's not enough education to the realtors about our business. And even though some may say, we don't really want to know about mortgages, or we really don't need to know, you do, because it's a whole package. When you're dealing with the customer, you should be a team, right? So you need to look out for things up front. And so I thought, I'll teach to realtors, give them CEUs for their credits that they need yearly. And it worked out phenomenally because I started to gain relationships with those realtors by teaching.
That's amazing. The part that really personally sticks out to me is like going to open houses with your father in a car. I think many of us have that experience. Mine was my mom would send me to open houses when I was in high school to go check it out. So this is what was the shift that you're like, you know what, the car financing, I know it's stable, but I'm going to take a risk and go into mortgages? Was it
a big risk.
Yeah. What was it like?
It was a big risk because I had just bought my first house. I was working for a company with a regular W-2 paying job. I had just had a fusion in my neck surgery. And all of a sudden I said, hey, I would like to talk to you, the mortgage company I went through. I'd like to talk to you about getting a job here. And they said, well, let's wait till you close. We'll talk to you after you close. So I talked to them, and then I made the move to go to 100% commission, no money, no contacts, not knowing what to do. And I don't know why I took that huge risk, but I just felt like I could do a better job. Just have more customer service and warmth to these clients, but also find out what their actual needs were. And to meet those expectations was my dream, right? And to put somebody in a house that I drove around with all the time, looking at these bigger houses, and to put somebody in a house or their first house, right, that they always dreamed of having, just like melted my heart. So I made the big jump. I remember the very first day I was leaving my house. My mother lived next door. I saw her in the driveway, and she said, I looked at her and I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do today? It's my first day. I don't even know what to do. And she said, you'll figure it out. And I figured it out because, you had to, right? And so I struggled. That was back in 2000, right? And so we were just coming out of going into the houses going way up in value. Rates were high. I mean, I bought my house at 9% FHA back in 2000. So only just a year or two later, rates started coming down. I didn't have all those contacts that my colleagues in my office had to be able to call on refis. So I had to really work it and just try to, get as many contacts as I could to try to get some refis in to gain some database.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. What was it for you? How long did it take you to be like, I'm comfortable? Like, I figured this out. I know I can make a living off of this.
2 years.
2 years. That's actually very, like, for a lot of other people, that's very fast.
Yeah, well, the first year I knew enough to get myself in trouble, right? It's definitely. The second year, I went through all the trials and, errors, and learned a lot of guidelines, and I started out as a broker. So I had reps coming in my office back then, left and right, saying you could do, 1 times, 60 and 2 times 30 late on a mortgage. You could do 100% financing, bankruptcy 1 day old. We were doing 80/20s and, doing all the non-conforming stuff. So I learned in the non-conforming business of brokerage. So doing conventional vanilla loans was so easy to me because I grew up in fixing people's credit that were in the low 500s and getting
Wow.
them a loan, right? And back then, when we had the fast and easy and the no ratio loans and stuff, people thought, oh, this is so easy, we'll just throw them in this. But I didn't know that. I was so new that I didn't know that these loans were like miracle loans to me.
You want to get to 10 loans a month, working 25 to 35 hours a week, making anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million a year. I put the complete playbook together for you on my school community. You can find a link to join in the description. Thank you.
And so I learned through the non-conforming way and CD paper, and then kind of, thank God I did, and learned all the credit stuff so that when I'm moving forward, it would be almost like an automatic thing for me.
That you did it the hard way. You learned how to do all the hard deals, so everything else became easier. I think that's like great for loan officers to know in general, that you want to get your reps in, you want to do all of the deals and just to learn, and then you will figure out which ones you're good at and which ones you'll do well in. I want to switch focus a little bit and talk about the focus on education. How did you find out about that? How did that shift happen in your business?
So the first 8 years of my business was when I was a broker. They were all about referral. They were basically exclusively by referral was on their business card, right? They didn't really go out to the board of realtors. They didn't do all those things. So I never really learned what I was supposed to do from them because everything was kind of in-house. And then I started going to the Chamber of Commerce meetings in my town. And then I ran into some other bankers, loan officers, and one of them said to me, "Why are you not on the board of realtors?" I said, "I didn't even know that was a thing." And then she told me about being an affiliate and meeting realtors. And so I joined that board, got very, very involved, a lot of committees, went to a lot of meetings. Then I started to say, why am I not teaching classes? These other people are teaching classes. Not a lot of affiliates were teaching. And, it was attorneys teaching or realtors that were teaching ethics or core. So I decided to get some classes. I've added on since then. I have 6 classes now. I'm adding a few more. And I just did an AI class that I broke out about a year ago. And, a year ago, it was really ChatGPT started getting really big. And that class is so well attended because I think realtors are really starting to use that now. But education has helped me gain relationships. The people that come to my class see me as an educator. So they think, okay, if I ever have to go to somebody with a mortgage question, who am I going to call? Am I going to call, ABC loan officer? Am I going to call someone that I saw that taught me a 3-hour class on how the mortgage process works? And so that's basically why I got involved and how I got involved.
That's amazing. It's a question on the continuing education classes. If a loan officer wants to follow the same strategy, how is the process for getting the licenses to teach CE?
So it's different in each state. So depending on, my state, you can be a teacher just by myself. And I know that's New Hampshire, but in Massachusetts, you have to be an actual school. So you have to open a school. But what I did was I gained a relationship with another teacher who owned a school in Massachusetts, and I'm able to teach with him through his school. So it's kind of cool. So now I can get credits for not only New Hampshire, Massachusetts, even though I'm licensed in other states. Those are the 2 states that I really focus on.
That's That makes sense. And those are, by the way, for listeners who are not from those states, those are two of the hardest states to grow and do business in. So the fact that Pamela is doing that much there is pretty impressive. I'm curious, and you don't have to answer this question if you can't. How many of your realtor relationships come from those classes now and the board?
I would say over the years that I've gained probably 40% of the realtors there, and I've retained probably 25%.
Wow. And by the way, we're going to get into the metrics because you're very metrics driven.
Yes, you have to know your numbers, Sam, right?
Exactly. So how many realtors do you have sending you business? And are realtors your main source of business?
I wouldn't say that. After 26 years, I have so many clients that send me referrals and come back to me. I used to, when I got married, the videographer said to me, I'm waiting for the call. I said, what's the call? And he was like, well, I'm doing so many brides that after 20 years now, I'm starting to get calls from their daughters who are getting married. And that's the call. And so I am starting to get the call from my clients' children who I knew when they were little, and now they're starting to buy houses. So I would say it's probably 50% my clientele and database, and then probably 35% realtors, and then 15 from my other business contacts. And I usually try to, you asked how many realtors, I really try to keep like a handful or two of close-knit realtors and really work those relationships. I'm not the guy who drives around and goes to realtors and, you know, hands out flyers or goes and stops by to say hello every week. And I don't have time for it, number one, but I'd rather my time be spent on the customer service for that realtor and their client. And I'd also rather have the time spent on the realtor itself and retaining the relationship.
If I understand correctly, and please let me know if I say anything wrong here, you use your board of the realtors and continuing education classes to meet a lot of people, like a one-to-many approach is effective, but you're not like pitching everyone. You're not going to meet every realtor. You know that you're not going to work with all of them or even a lot of them. You handpicked a few that you really like and they like you, and you put a lot of energy and attention on them. Is that right?
Correct. Because in this business, you want to work with professionals that are like you, right? I mean, at this day and time, I can pick and choose who I want to work with. I don't want to work, and I'm not saying like the brand new younger realtors, I absolutely would work with them if they have the same mindset, but I don't want to work with a realtor who's part-time or just isn't driven enough to be in this for the client, right? And so I want to work with realtors that are like-minded like me, that basically are being very professional and are all about the client and customer getting to the finish line as smooth as possible. And also creating a team, right? So I have an insurance person, I have an attorney, I have an estate planning attorney, right? And we use that circle together to help that client get everything that they need. So, you know, that's how I would say out of a class of 50 realtors, I would say 5 of them at least come up to me after the class, asking me questions and ask if they can call me.
Wow. So how often do you do these classes?
So you have to get licensed through the state that you're in. So you have to contact the state licensing department. And then you have to put in a resume. How many hours have you ever taught? Have you ever gone to a real estate office and just taught a lunch and learn? Have you taught to regular, customers, right? Borrowers. So you put the hours that you've taught before. You have to have so many years in the business, and then only a few, okay? And then you create a PowerPoint of what you're going to teach. And when you teach, I'm not talking about loanDepot. I'm not talking about my company, right? Or me. I'm teaching to them. So I'm not there to market myself. I'm there to educate. So I never mention my company, and the state doesn't want you to.
If you want to get to 10 loans a month, working 25 to 35 hours a week, making anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million a year, I put the complete playbook together for you on my school community. You can find a link to join in the description. Thank you.
I think is great. but it just automatically comes over time. And if they see you in multiple classes over the year, you get a hold of the education committee at that board of realtor and you say, look, I have a class I'd like to teach. Can you put me on your list for the next opening? And then you can get in there to teach.
That's really interesting. And by the way, again, for listeners, it is going to be different in every state. So check with your state and how it works. You mentioned something that I really like. You said you work with new realtors, but you care about the mindset and you work with only a handful of people. What qualities are you looking for specifically in a realtor to say, you know what, we'll make good partners?
Number one, do they educate themselves? That's a big thing. So if I see them in classes, I know that they want to learn. I know that they're moving forward in their business to be able to be education for the client, right? Then number two, are they professional? Do they answer their phone all the time? Do they get back to my clients within 24 hours? And do they offer them options? They're not just trying to sell them a house, right? So we want to make sure that the customer's getting what they want, not just a realtor that's saying, you know, you should buy this house just so they can get a sale, right? And then number three, how do they work with me, right? So how is our communication? Do they allow me to do my job? Are they going to micromanage me throughout the process? A lot do that, a lot. I remember back in the day when we used to have HUD ones instead of CDs. And I remember a realtor who used to give me all of her business, all of it. She would staple my card to her Remax folder and she would push it in front of the client and say, I don't care. I'm not stealing you, but you can't really use anyone else but her, right? And I thought, well, this is great, but you can't steal them, right? So, but every single time we go to a closing, she would sit right next to them. Now, I've been dealing with their finances for 60 days to a year or more. She's never seen a dollar or what they have in finances. And she would sit right next to them and she would go over the HUD with them and all the numbers. And I used to say, why is the realtor going over all their figures with them when we're the ones that just dealt with it all? And they might make a mistake because they don't know exactly what this customer might have got. Did they get a lender credit? Was there points because of a reason? Did they ask to buy down the rate? So things like that. And so I want to make sure that that realtor makes us a team and it's 50-50. I'm not stepping on their feet with real estate, even though I know a lot about it and I'm not licensed, so I'm not going to step on their feet, and the other way around.
Oh, I love the division of labor. One thing that you said to me that I'm like, oh, that's actually such a good indicator is, do they educate themselves? Because if they put the energy in to educate themselves, everything else typically happens as well. You know, you learn how to provide better experience. Like if one thing leads to another, if you're just looking to educate yourself, which kudos to all the listeners here. You're educating yourself. This is a form of education.
Exactly.
I'm going to change gears a little bit and go into your lead conversion. We talked a lot how you generate leads through realtors, but how do you convert leads? So like how many leads do you get? How many apps and how many fundings do you typically get?
So every year on January 1st, on New Year's Day, I do my business plan. I do a business plan for the year. I know exactly how many leads I need to make what I want, to pay my bills. And then there's a bankroll, but then there's also, what do you want extra, right? So what do you need to pay your bills, but what do you want for everything else, right? There's a stretch. So there's a bank number and a stretch number. I learned that a long time ago from Tim Brahim from Loan Toolbox. Back in the day, we used to do business plans for the year. So since then, since 2002, I've done it every year. And so I know that I need 2.92 leads a week in order to convert the amount that I need in order to bankroll. So my bank number. To stretch number, I need 4 leads a week. My conversion rate is about 87%. So it's pretty good once I get the customer on the phone. And that's if it's a warm lead, okay? And if it's a cold lead, okay, like the company might have somebody moving to Mass, New Hampshire, New England, Florida, whatever. And if I take that lead from the company, I'm still at about a 50% conversion, which is hard when you get rate shoppers, right? And so it's very difficult, but you have to go in and talk to them first. Everyone's going to say, what's your rate? I get them off rate ASAP. first question, if they ask me about rate, I ask them what their hot button is besides rate. What is it that most drives you to getting this home or this investment property? Because I work with a lot of investors. Let's make sure it cash flows. Then I get into all the other education that I learned. I learned a lot about insurance. I learned all about estate planning, and I made sure I learned about taxes and gifts. You know, if somebody's giving you a gift, I need to be able to speak freely about that. And then I always back it up with, please speak to your CPA. This is information I learned, but I want you to make sure, so give them a call. So that is something that to convert something, a lot of people will just take an application, right, Sam? They'll say, what's your name? What's your number? What's this? And then they go, okay, I need your social. How many people are going to back off if the third question you ask them is, what's your social? And they don't even know you. My last question that I ask somebody is their social security number. I go into the whole story. Where do you work? You must love your job. What do you love about this? And we gain a whole relationship over like 20 minutes. Then I say, in order for me to get you a pre-approval, I need to get your social to pull credit. So I think sometimes beginning loan officers can make that mistake because they just don't know better. You know what I mean? But it's definitely worked for me over the years. And I'm sure many other loan officers that are veterans probably do that as well.
And what you shared is really good. So one, you say your conversion is an 80% plus for a warm referral. Is that from lead to funding, or is that lead to pre-approval?
Lead to funding.
Lead to funding, that is insanely high. That means not only are you converting your clients by building trust, you're also getting a lot of good referrals, meaning like they're not like 9 months out, maybe they don't want to buy. No, they're like high intent, well-qualified people, which connects to you handpicking the people that you work with. That really makes sense. My second question to you is, are you taking phone apps then?
So we have a link that they can fill it out. But what I do is I offer them, would you rather, for time purposes, fill out the app on the link, and then I call you and go over the app and fill in the blanks? Or would you rather do it with me over the phone? Right now, I used to meet with every single client, and I mean every one of them. And this was only 8 years ago, Sam, right? So my door at my office was revolving. They would come in, I'd do a discovery meeting for an hour. The next one would come in, the next one would come in. And my staff would just say, okay, the next one's here, get them coffee. And so it was nice to sit and educate them, right? They didn't know about escrows. They didn't know about anything, insurance up front. But what happened was no one wanted to do that anymore. Nobody had time. Everybody was online. Everybody was doing everything through the internet. So I had to adapt and change. And so now I offer them those two options. I might have 1 out of 100 that might ask to meet me to give me paperwork, but that's about it. So I really like that. I have a little more time because of it, you know, when they fill it out online. But then I always have a conversation with them after to go over those discovery things and educate them on the process.
That's amazing. It's one thing I appreciate in what you're saying is that you do have different ways for different people. One of the biggest principles of lead conversion and generally great client experience is that we work the way they want to work. Some people, they don't want to do anything on their own. They want to be handheld. They want to communicate through the phone or even in person. Some people, they want to minimize phone conversations as much as possible. Like my wife and I are like polar opposites, and we also have different modes of communication. My wife loves emails and portals. Like if you email her direction, she's your best client. She'll do it. If you call her, she will go stop someone else because she doesn't want to talk on the phone. I'm the opposite. I'm like, have a conversation with me, maybe like send a Zoom call, give me some bullet points, and then like take the info from me.
Right.
So offering the two to your clients is like, which one do you like? I'll work the way you want. And that's one of the reasons you have such a high conversion. Yes,
because you're a chameleon in this business, right? If you're working with a first-time home buyer, you have to hold their hand. But if I'm working with an engineer, I'm sending out, you know, graphs and sheets and Excel numbers and all that. And so that's why if I don't educate myself enough to be able to speak to an engineer that knows more about money than I do, right? I have to be able to talk to them on the same level. And so if you don't educate yourselves about money and why they shouldn't make that extra mortgage payment every month, and why should they put it into their retirement fund, it helps you for those other leads. So when I talk to my clients about don't put so much money down, the bank is giving you a 0% rate of return. Would you rather put that money, and then it gives me the lead to give to my financial advisor or estate planner, right? So we talk about that. I mean, I just had a customer, they were buying like a $900,000 house and only wanted a $150,000 mortgage. So we were able to get them higher and a higher loan amount, right? Which increases our pay, but also it helps them because now they have more money to keep in their investments.
Yeah. And the key thing isn't like, hey, we want to do this just because it's better for us. We want to show, does it make sense for you and your life goals? And if it does, here's an alternative to what you're thinking. If not, like if it doesn't serve you, we're not going to do it. Right. And that's why the longer phone conversation up front and being excited with them and asking them about them helps you have these more strategic conversations. It's not like you're jumping into Social Security. Here's a 30-year mortgage. Good luck.
Right. And, it isn't about the money. And a lot of people, even back in the day when 08 happened, right? When 2008 happened, we had a lot of loan officers going on the red eye to Vegas and buying their McMansions and their cars and everything else. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I was very conservative. I kept a lot of my money and made sure that I could make it through. And, I had a slow year in 08, but enough to survive. And, it's basically, and then the years after, it just grew and grew and grew because we made it through with those customers and helped them, the ones that were going to go into foreclosure, and we helped them with the Obama loan, right? So it really is about making sure you're following up with those clients and gaining that relationship and taking care of them when they're not in the process of a loan, but after the loan, right?
That's really good. And that's why you're getting the call now. People are following up. Their kids are following up.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to switch gears again. Imagine this is advice to other loan officers. Like, what advice would you give to loan officers? But I want to shift it a little bit and say, like, if you are starting your career again today is day one, what are you doing?
The day of AI, crazy, right? Internet-based, right? Well, during my last 10 years, I've been dealing with reverse mortgages, baby boomers, all kinds of stuff. And that is starting to really get big. But if I was brand new, social media and videos are the way to go. That is how everyone sees you. You need to keep it brief, quick, and educational. You do a 2-minute video or less, and you educate and you give a tip and you make sure you're consistent. That's number one to get out there to your realtor or your social media partners. To customers, you call them 30, 60, and 90 days after they close. You keep up with them. You make sure everything's fine. Did they make their first payment? Is everything okay? Is there anything we can help with? Here's how your escrow is going to work. Don't forget you're getting your tax bill. It's just a copy. We will pay it. Okay. And then the third thing for marketing and out there is to get involved in your community. If you do not get involved in your community, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, whether you're on the board for the Boys and Girls Club, whether you're in the board of realtors, you have to get involved to make connections and meet people. So those would be my top 3 right now.
Those are really, really good actionable items. And I like the flow of them because you're saying get involved with your community. That's like warm relationships. You're saying focus on social media and content as well, because that helps with the conversion. People do look us up beforehand now. And then you're saying, here's how you take care of great clients as well. So really good strategies, highly implementable. Can loan officers reach out to you?
Yes. I mean, if loan officers want to reach out to me, I'm on social media. Also, they can, call me 603-234-4085, or they can reach out to my website, which is loandepot.com/P Riesenberg. So, and I before E, except after C, everybody likes to do Riesenberg. I love it.
Anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with loan officers before we end the podcast?
if you're having a hard time right now, so if loan officers are feeling like, as soon as a realtor says to me, I don't know how these realtors have any business because I'm not getting any. First thing I think of is that realtor's waiting for the phone to ring. They're not doing anything to, it's a business, right? They don't work for the real estate company. They work for themselves. They're a 1099 business. They're their own business. And you have to treat this business as if it's your own business. Don't allow the looking at the company to give you leads or to get stuff from the company. Go out and act as if this is a brand new business you just opened, whether it's a gift store, a pizza shop, doesn't matter. Market yourself as this is your own business and you want to market you, not the company, right? So if you're having a hard time right now, pick up the phone, make 10 calls a day. I don't care if it's realtors, CPAs, attorneys, whatever you have to do, and ask them how you can help each other build your businesses. That would be my advice.
That is really, really good advice. 10 calls a day. I say it as well. You cannot be broke if you make 10 calls a day.
Right.
Thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you having me today.